Welcome to my first impressions at F125. Today I'll be testing out 3 different tracks in a mix of weather conditions, dry, intermediate and the full wet, to see how the game feels straight out of the box. First up, we're in Spain and I had to take Lewis Hamilton out for a test drive in his new Ferrari. The first thing I've noticed is the graphics are a lot smoother than F124. The level of detail in the tyres as they're scrubbing along the surface really does change and you can notice it straight away. The handling has been completely changed to try and make it simulate a more F1 realistic feel. The biggest change that I've seen is that the cars feel a lot more understeery than an F124. F124 had crazy levels of grip that would just send you through corners at such high speeds. This seems a little bit more challenging and a little bit harder to get on with. Having said that, I haven't actually adapted the setup to my liking. This was literally straight out the box, click, play, go. That's the dry lap complete, onto the intermediate lap. For the second lap it had to be Silverstone in the wet, good old British summertime. With this lap I did tweak the cockpit settings just a little bit to see if I could feel a little bit more connected with the car and to see if that sort of eradicated some of the understeer that I was feeling. Now I'm happy with the camera settings, I could really push the limits of the wet weather in F125. And to be honest, I really quite like it. I actually seem to do better in the wet than what I do when I'm in the dry, which is kind of strange, but wet weather racing is definitely fun. You can really feel the sudden losses of grip, which definitely adds to the challenge and the excitement of wet weather racing in F125. I know it must be hard for game designers, but the one thing I was hoping for this year was that the rain wouldn't just run down vertically in the wet weather. I was really hoping that it would actually go off to the sides as though you were actually steaming through 200 miles an hour down a back straight with all the water and spray hitting you in the face for a more realistic feel. I did notice whilst racing with the McLaren that the audio seems a little bit better. I could really hear as the bottom of the car was scraping out over the curves, so that is definitely an improvement from last year. Enjoy the rest of this lap before we take on the extreme full wet weather tyre. Here is the last lap in Montreal with the extreme wet tyre. The first thing you notice about the extreme wet tyre is the amount of spray that actually comes off whilst racing. The second thing you'll notice is after your first braking zone there's no grip, so hold on tight for a fun-filled ride. There is a massive difference between both tyres. The intermediate I was happy on, had loads of grip, could push the limit and enjoyed it. The full wet tyre however has zero grip. It was a real challenge to actually get round and complete one full lap without clipping the barrier. This is largely due to a setup issue, but because I was just plugging and playing, I've not delved into setups too much. Full wet weather racing in this year's game is really going to push your skills to the absolute limit. The sudden loss of traction and the big snaps of oversteer really will catch you out if you're not paying 100% attention. My overall first impressions of F125 are largely positive. I think there's still plenty of room for improvement, maybe some patches can fix some issues, but largely it is going to be a good game and I'm looking forward to experiencing more of the game in later content. In my next video series I shall be taking you a step-by-step guide of my gameplay through Breaking Point Part 3 and seeing what drama unfolds with Connor Sport. Leave a comment if there's any particular content you would like me to cover in F125. Thanks for watching and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. See you on track next time.